Hello, Siggraph. How y'all doing today? Everyone hydrated? Everyone free drinks at the Zeiss booth, I think I heard? Oh, never mind. Here.
All right. Bye.
If you stick around. No, just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. Hey, good to be here today. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Really appreciate it. We're going to talk a little bit about DIT carts and really the next generation and, different things that myself and Arvin and Wacom are working together on. And this here is kind of our next generation DIT or dailies cart. I guess it could be used for any number of things. Maybe it's your Nerf cart, maybe it's your AI cart, your camera tracking cart, whatever it may be. It could be anything at this point, but really the most important aspect here is this Wacom 27-inch LED monitor. Arvin, why don't you tell us a little bit about this beauty right here?
Yeah, thank you, Dane. Hello, everyone. We're probably the last people standing between you and your beer, so we'll try to keep it quick. So this here Wacom monitor is a 27-inch, color-accurate, HDR-capable, color-calibratable monitor, but the difference is I can touch it.
Don't touch my monitor. Wait, never mind.
Touch
my monitor.
Touch my monitor.
Okay, so if we were on set right now and you were looking at my DIT card, it would have some signs that says, touching wallet or touching screen will damage wallet, okay? And what that means is if you touch it, you might be deteriorating the OLED or the material. So the great thing about the Wacom is it's touch. So what it allows us to do is, one, to touch it with our finger. So now we suddenly make our monitors, which we normally don't necessarily touch, now we're touchy. So what we have here is actually two of Cintiq's monitors. We have a 16-inch and we have the 27-inch. So the 27-inch is really special. It has a 400 nit luminance. It's Pantone color, and then it also allows us inside of our Resolve, and this is very meta because this is actually some of our footage from earlier and some of our talks. So you can actually see us and what some of our footage looks like throughout the day. And if I'm going to talk about any particular thing in particular, like such as color, I got to put, Tucker Downs or any of our lovely folks here who are talking about color in general. So it's really fun, very tactile, but also it allows you the chance to move your displays between multiple displays and not have to always kind of like look up, look down, and allows you more than anything else the ability to actually touch, use a pen, create maybe a node, for example, if you want to, and now you don't have to actually look away from the panel or look down to actually go into your color aspect or coloring some of the footage that we've shot today, for example. So it's some of those like really fun things that we can do and actually switch between our footage or, use your finger. You don't actually have to use the pen. So Arvin, tell us a little bit more about the Wacom and how it's designed and some of the Pantone and the color features.
Sure thing. So the Wacoms traditionally are ubiquitous in pre-production or post-production, like when the cameras are off. So these are built for artists working on them 12 hours a day with their hand on them, right? So it's got it's kind of oleophobic coating. That way, if you touch it, I got greasy hands, but I can touch it. It doesn't.
No finger spots.
No finger spots.
How do you achieve that?
It's a special treatment over glass, right? So it's designed for workflows where it's meant to be touched. But now, traditionally, they were not so, I would say, color accurate or bright enough to be on set. But a newer generation, with the brightness and the color accuracy we brought on, we are finding new ways to bring them on set as tactile interfaces, right?
Love Tactile. I mean, I just love to have that. There's something about it's kind of that haptic feedback, that tactile. I don't know about you, but for me, like I love the ability to. I just have a little bit more of a deeper connection when I'm working. I mean, obviously we have keyboards, we have mouses, but what the great thing that I really like about some of the stuff that we're doing, for example, is if I'm switching between, let's just say this is Silverstack XT, this is our camera management, data management. I just love to be able to kind of come through here, touch any of this, go and look some of my different settings as I'm actually working instead of like, carpal tunnel all day with a mouse. I don't know. Anyone else got carpal tunnel? Oh, thank you. Thank you for everyone in the room. Raise their hands. It's just one of those things where you can kind of escape some of that repetitive stress injury, because all of us work really hard, long hours, especially in production. I'm predominantly in production, and so I'm standing on my feet. There's no Wacom, unfortunately, anti-fatigue mats yet, but that's coming, right?
It's on the roadmap.
Okay, good. So in the meantime, what this allows us to do is, one, we're not looking away as much, and so you're not losing as much time as what you would to look down at your keyboard, look down or look up. You can actually stay more engaged longer, and allows you to get your work, and it increases your productivity. At least it has been for me. And I've been using this system now for a little over about a year and a half or so. Arvin, why don't you tell us a little bit more about...
Yeah, sure thing. So one thing you can notice here on Dane's cart, he's got a monitor here and another monitor there. So one thing we were looking for during this design was efficiency and space saving, because I need a space in the cart to put my phone down or maybe my beer. But if you noticed, he doesn't have like another grading panel here or another HDMI breakout or SDI. It's pretty compact. So tell us a little bit more, Dane, how that saves you in terms of efficiency, in terms of setup.
Absolutely. So at least on a DIT cart, if you were to go and look at most DIT carts, it has to be shared by two people. It's shared by the DIT, who's doing a lot of the exposure, color, workflow management, and also the cinematographer. So typically I would have actually two of these monitors side by side to represent A camera and B camera. But in addition to that, I also am I like to slice up the cart so that the cinematographer has a working space to put their meter, to put down their coffee, their food, whatever it may be. And it's a really important real estate when you're on set, especially if you're on location and you have to get into something really tight. And so what Arvin was mentioning here was having that kind of space savings and not having a giant coloring panel at times, or even just a small compact coloring panel, can sometimes absorb some of that space that you may want for other things, like a waveform, a leader, or any of this. In this case, we're using the Centrical SSD RAIDs, and then we have our card readers on top here. Sometimes that might be mounted down below. Sometimes it might be mounted up top, which is what we're doing today. So having that space savings is so important, especially on a cart, and keeping yourself nice and small when you're working on set.
So Dane, if I may, so in addition to space savings, how does it affect your setup time? Because, when we're on set, you want to spend time on takes, right? How would you compare how long it takes for you to set up this cart on location versus what they call a traditional cart?
Well, it just depends. Like, one of the things that's great and unique to the Wacom versus an OLED panel is an OLED panel is typically going to have a lot of buttons on the front, which is great. But what's awesome about this one, and I can actually turn it here and show you some of this, is you can actually see it has these nice fancy little hand grips back here that is kind of like a little remote and gives you the ability to actually adjust and create hotkeys on your monitor. And so when you're working, if you want to be as efficient as possible, and by the way, this is the Wacom with the innovative stand. What we do is we will pull it around and we'll be able to create hotkeys that are on here, which is something that's really unique to the Wacom. But as far as speed goes, having the monitors kind of upright and ready to go, I mean, one of the things that's nice that I can't normally do is I can't do this kind of setup, which some of the programmers out there are going, yeah, I know that setup right there. I like to have all my monitors vertical. Any 9x16 fans out here? Yeah, 9x16. 9x16, that was a DP. So, yep, shoot vertical. I am a huge Instagram nerd, okay? And sometimes what's even nicer is the ability to turn it upside down, right? Because we have something that when we're using a Steadicam, for example, we have low mode, which is literally turning the camera upside down. And now I don't have to even go for a button or do anything. I can just turn the whole thing around, as you can see right here. So as Arvin mentioned earlier, we can actually make the whole system, as you can see, it's articulating the ability to actually start looking at something in the way that you intended to, or what your client or what you're looking to actually create, right? Because we're all here to create content. It's a little bit harder to move the camera, so sometimes it's a little bit of a faster way to work.
So Dane, on a typical shoot, right? How much time? Let's take you're making color decisions on set. You're developing CDLs. To make those decisions, how much time in a day do you get with a cinematographer, and how does this setup help you make those decisions faster? For example, live grading.
Typically, a cinematographer is extremely busy. They're managing in 3 departments, and they have a lot of lighting decisions, color decisions. So they're running around, they're setting up this amazing wall and the color. They're working with our VAD artist, our virtual production supervisor, our lovely director. And as you can see, they're moving, they're concentrating on the image. So by the time they get to the DIT cart, they just want to look at something. I get 2 minutes with them to just propose and give them the ability to ask those questions. Do you want it warmer? Do you want it cooler? Is this great? What do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? Is this something you want? And that's about as much time as I get. And that is so premium, and that allows us, which is really important, especially in production, also post-production, but really production is saving time, but it makes our day. And when you're standing on your feet all day, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, you don't want to do that for 9 months on end, right? So you really want to get out of there. So that managing that time with your cinematographer having your DIT cart is paramount. It's absolutely the most important thing is time. And so they only get a few minutes and then roll camera, right? Because that's all you want to do. You want to roll camera as much as you possibly can to leverage what you're trying to shoot to create those amazing shots that you're there to do.
And talking about virtual production, I recently had an opportunity to work with a cinematographer and director about using a interactive setup in a virtual production environment. Virtual production is about collaboration. You want people working together on set, right? So viewing the camera feed and having a director and a DP come in and interact with it real time, it spoke not only about efficiency, but also bringing that spirit of collaboration back on set.
Absolutely. Very collaborative effort. I mean, it takes a village to create, even some of these shots that we have right here behind us, but also in a camera team, and we have our focus pullers, we have our DITs, we have our loaders, utilities, and then we also have our lighting crew, our grit crew, and no one wants to be sitting there any longer than necessary to be able to achieve their shot. So that's one of the reasons why I've adopted the Wacom 27-inch Cintiq as well as the 16-inch. And you can see we have another cart. It's not here. On this particular shot, we'll have a cutaway. We have the purple cart over, which is a little bit more traditional. But what we're using is the 16 for all of our live grading, live shots. This cart is a little bit more set up to do all of our dailies and our transcodes and our more critical finite coloring.
So how does the color accuracy of the 27 help you on set?
Absolutely massive. I mean, what's great about this particular monitor is you have your 2 color spaces that you can work in. For me, especially if I'm working on, WandaVision or Avatar or anything, we have constantly working between an SDR image or an HDR image. And so having the ability to switch with some of our buttons on the back with our quick keys, which Arvin will show you right there, we can actually toggle right then and there between Rec 709 or Rec 2020. So we can actually toggle between those 2 color spaces. We have to do a little bit of fun-timey stuff inside of Resolve to get that look and to switch that color space over, but it makes this monitor, which is a 4K monitor, as well as the color accuracy of that Pantone color, to allow us to see, like in this case, it's a rock, right? But someone really deeply cares about the color of that rock. So we want to make sure that our production designers, our art team, our visual effects team, everyone who's putting so much effort into what that should look like, that when we look at it through the camera, which, by the way, in my world, nothing exists completely until we see it through the lens and through the camera and then through our image pipeline. And having a monitor like the Cintiq 27 allows us to have that accuracy. And then we can use our scopes, we can use everything else that we rely on in our lighting package to be able to do that.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more, what else do you have in your cart? And how this next gen?
Well, one of the things that I have two systems here. In this particular case with this system, we're using a Sonnet rack as well as our Mac Studio. Typically, I'll have our HP Z6 or Z8 that's off to the side. That's going to be a little bit more of our higher GPU throughput when we really need to get into the color fidelity or we need to drive something behind us. We don't usually drive the wall, but every once in a while we have to drive a large screen of some sort for the client, for the director, for anyone else who needs to look at something like that. So I tend to go, I'm a little agnostic when it comes to the computer and the system, but probably the most important thing is power, right? Anyone Back to the Future fan over here? What'd they say to Marty, right, when he's going over the lake? Oh, you don't have power? And it's because electricity is the root of everything. So we want to be able to, with the root of electricity, to have really clean power, because when we're out on set, we're going to have a variety of different power sources coming to us, and sometimes it's dirty, sometimes it's clean, sometimes it's not electric friendly. But at the end of the day, in order to drive a nice clean image and to have reliability with our Wacom's, we like to have nice clean power. So that's really what we're talking about here. And then, of course, we have to have our fast drives. And everyone knows here, fast drives save lives, right? That's your life that it's saving. So that's such an important aspect of what this DIT card is and how it works for all of us.
I think it's time we can open it up for questions, right?
Yeah. Let's ask some questions. Do we just point at people? Should I just point at people?
We can point at people with surprise questions. I got a hot mic.
All right, who's got a question? Okay.
All right.
Not the DP.
Come on over.
He can ask me questions all day.
Sorry, I'm just coming in, but how much does that screen cost?
We can
It's
talk
free.
about- yeah,
It's free.
We
It's
can
free.
do it after the
It's
talk,
free.
yeah.
Right on.
You're welcome.
Hey, Woofy, you have a question? Come on over.
So when a producer comes and says, why do you need a DIT? He's just downloading footage. Why is he so expensive? What do you say to that new producer?
I say, why do we even need a DP? I can do all this myself. I'm just kidding. No, why do you need a DIT? That's a great question. Because at the end of the day, you need a gatekeeper. You need someone who's going to be making sure that what the director and what the DP, what the production designer, the art team, the VAD team, the virtual production team, everyone who's contributed all of their time and effort and finally gotten to set wants to make sure that everything comes together, is perfect, and not only is a DIT the keeper of that image, which digital imaging technician, right, is ultimately they're a keeper of the data and what the final result is. And they will be the last line of defense before it's received by post. So if it doesn't get to post in the most expeditious and accurate way, it costs money to fix that, right? Or I need more time or day or hours to be able to come back and reshoot it because something happened, right? So my purpose on set really is to facilitate a lot of the technical needs. I tell people the DIT is the CTO of camera department, and so that's how I like to act and treat. So thanks, Wolfie. That's a great question. So hire me on your next large feature, please.
Dane, you might have already covered this, but so I'm asking this as a filmmaker and somebody that does traditional filmmaking, but also is new to virtual production, assembling a team, assembling a virtual art department, and talking to a DP who it's her first time in this world. How early as a director would I start a conversation with you, or start to bring you into conversations with the rest of the team in as we're starting to comp images together, or even just when we're having tone meetings? At what point in this space, virtual production, is good to bring you into the conversation?
So typically in virtual production, especially in the narrative space, everyone's working a year ahead. So there's a year that everyone's been living with this before I even get the call. But in virtual production, especially when decisions on set are so important, and everything we're doing is intended to have like what we call in-camera visual effects, or some people would say final pixel. You've worked so hard to have an image, to have everything on the wall, so that when it goes through that camera, that it is accurate and correct and doesn't have any issues. And if it does, that you can fix those right then and there, saving tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s a minute or an hour, depending on what project you're on. But to answer your question, I would say a month is a nice minimal amount of time for a DIT to be involved, especially with the DP. But what we've seen with some of the larger productions is I can be there as early as 3 months before, because we're not just in virtual production, we have so many other outside capabilities. For example, streaming. We also might have a cloud instance or a cloud part that we're building into and uploading to. We might have a large team. We might have some specialty equipment. But ultimately, when the DIT gets in there as early as possible, it allows them to go through some of that creative process and be part of those creative decisions, so that when you get to, scene 536, 3 months after you shot 535, that it's 100% accurate to what the director or the DP or what the whole production and language that they're trying to create. So I tell people sometimes I'm like a little bit of a translator. They have their creative input and what they want, but I'm really trying to help them translate that to get as fast to editorial or any of the people who might not be there.
That's great.
If we were to add to that, right? So let's take Fathead as an example. Like the DP was involved in the art department. Like now, the art department is morphed into the virtual art department, because what they're putting is going to be on camera. Right? So they're involving a DP in the pre-light sessions. So one of the conversations I can see this evolving into now, the art department is having conversations about color and color space. But that's a new topic for them. Does the DP have enough time to educate them and work with them? It's a challenge, right? So I think probably DITs like Dane are going to get involved in conversations with art department as well about, like, especially around color.
Yeah, getting everyone on the same page is really important. Yeah, especially when a lot of it does become in camera. One of the I know we have to wrap up, but one of the things that's been the most fun about like working with you guys and watching you is like on set, like the live color grading, because all of these videos end up going to the ETC YouTube channel, right? And we've done this together before. And seeing everything as intended, as recorded, and just being able to like send that off, right away has been really nice. And it's different than just slapping a lead on something. It's live. It is as the circumstances call for on the day. So it's been really, really fun to work in that way. So.
Well, thank you, Missy. It's been happy to support you.
Great. We got to wrap.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for Siggraph
Thank you.
Wednesday. Appreciate you letting us wrap it up. And thank you to ETC for having me and not firing me.